Today, we're conducting a diagnostic analysis of a system you can find almost anywhere, from the boardroom to the bedroom. We're breaking down the hidden mechanics of emotional control cycles. Think of it as the invisible architecture that manipulates loyalty, dismantles your sense of self, and operates with the precision of a psychological weapon.
Okay, let's just dive right into that. This quote, it's not about emotion, it's about engineering a situation. It's suggesting that the strongest bonds aren't actually forged in safety, but in the calculated cycle of crisis and relief. This isn't about someone helping you through a storm. No, this is about them manufacturing the storm, controlling the chaos, and then making sure they're the only one with the umbrella. That is the core principle of a control cycle, manufactured dependency.
So how does this actually play out? It's really crucial to understand that we are not talking about mood swings or someone just being inconsistent. We're analyzing a repeating, predictable pattern, what we're calling the neural merry-go-round. This is a system, and it's designed with precision to weaponize your own nervous system against you. The whole idea is rooted in B.F. Skinner's research on intermittent reinforcement, the discovery that unpredictable rewards create the strongest, most compulsive behaviors. This isn't a feeling, it's a technology of control.
Let's be crystal clear on this. The hot and cold dynamic is not a sign of a passionate or complicated person. It is a method of behavioral programming. To the most primitive parts of your brain, the parts wired for survival, a sudden return of warmth after a period of coldness, well, that doesn't just feel nice, it's processed as a biological miracle. It triggers this massive flood of relief chemicals, dopamine, oxytocin, and creates a powerful, addictive hook. This isn't bonding, it's a tension relief loop that forges a traumatic bond.
And right here, we see the central conflict. Most of us believe that loyalty and trust are built on consistency, right? But a deeper analysis shows a much darker mechanism at play. In a lot of high-stakes environments, the most addictive bonds are actually built on this rhythm of pain and relief. See, the system exploits a loophole in our biology that mistakes the intensity of relief for the depth of connection. It's also why high performers, people driven to solve complex problems, can be so vulnerable. The cycle turns the relationship into a problem to be solved, hooking their sharpest skills into a game they can never win.
Okay, so if that's the core conflict our biology is vulnerable to, how is it actually put into practice? Let's move on and see how this whole thing is built. We're going to deconstruct the loop itself. And I want to be clear, this isn't random chaos. It's a 4-stage system of emotional engineering designed to literally seize control of a target's reality. This is the architecture of the trap, and it dismantles a person's agency, piece by piece, from the inside out.
The system operates in 4 very distinct phases, right? It moves from a manufactured high to a terrifying void, and then right back again. We're talking idealization, devaluation, variable validation, and finally, rhythmic monopoly. Each stage builds on the one before it, systematically creating a neurological addiction to the person controlling the cycle. And the sequence, it's not an accident. It's the most efficient way to create a state of captured loyalty, where getting out feels biologically impossible.
So the crucial point of entry is stage 1, idealization. The architect of the cycle finds what the source calls an identity hunger, that deep need you have to be seen as smart or capable or special. They don't just praise you, they saturate you with it. You feel profoundly, deeply seen. This builds a map in your brain where their presence equals the highest possible reward. Then comes stage 2, devaluation. The warmth just vanishes. No explanation, they're suddenly busy, distracted, maybe a little critical. This is a calculated move designed to trigger a neural panic. The reward is gone and your brain, terrified of the withdrawal, immediately takes on the job of fixing things. And right there, that's the systemic failure. Your brain now sees restoring the connection as a matter of survival.
This panic just sets the stage perfectly for variable validation. The architect starts giving you breadcrumbs of warmth, a nice text after days of silence, a quick flash of that old connection. This creates a dependency on relief. Your brain learns that if you just try hard enough, you can, unpredictably, end the pain. You start walking on eggshells, giving up your own boundaries just for a hit of that relief. And this is where your sovereignty, your ability to trust your own judgment, it just breaks. Finally, this all leads to a rhythmic monopoly. This is the stage where the architect becomes the only judge of your reality. You stop looking to yourself for validation, you only look to them. They've shifted the entire power balance from mutual to purely extractive.
And this quote just nails the transaction, doesn't it? It's not a relationship, it's a neurological hijacking.
The target, even a really high performer, starts prioritizing that next fix of approval over their own well-being, their own goals, their own freedom. This is what we call the high-performing addict, someone whose entire world just shrinks down to the single goal of getting that next reconciliation hit. They're caught on an arousal-based leash, mistaking all that tension for passion.
But why is this pattern so devastatingly effective? Why do incredibly smart, successful people get caught on this wheel? Well, the answer isn't a failure of intellect or character. It's actually a feature of our biology. This system exploits vulnerabilities that are already built into our brain's ancient reward and attachment circuits. It's basically a hack of our operating system.
The core mechanism here is something called the contrast principle, and it explains that our brain doesn't value things in absolute terms. It values them based on what came right before. So, for example, a 60-degree room feels warm if you just came in from the freezing cold, but it feels cool if you were just in a sauna. The exact same thing is true for emotion. The intense relief you feel from induced pain is perceived by your brain as more valuable, more significant than quiet, predictable consistency. That spike of salvation just feels more real than the steady ground of stability.
Now, what's really fascinating about this slide is how it visualizes the brain's bias. On one side, you've got a stable bond, a nice steady line. That's your baseline. On the other, you have the cyclical relationship with these dramatic peaks and valleys. And that massive spike, that moment of reconciliation, it gets processed as more intense and more meaningful than years of steady support. This visualizes what's called the baseline arousal disconnection. The brain starts to mistake the arousal of the cycle for the value of the bond. And suddenly, the calm baseline of a healthy connection starts to feel boring or even dead.
So how do we justify staying in a loop like this? Well, to deal with the internal conflict of chasing something that's so obviously painful, we create a story. That's cognitive dissonance in action. We tell ourselves, this turmoil is just a sign of deep passion. But there's another psychological principle working here too, the Zeigarnik effect. This is our brain's tendency to obsess over unfinished tasks or unanswered questions. By creating these unexplained withdrawals, the cycle architect leaves all these open loops in your mind. You become mentally consumed with trying to solve the relationship, and that just exhausts you and deepens the trap.
So if you're caught in this, how do you see it? The key is a massive shift in perspective. You have to stop feeling the intensity of the moments and start auditing the long-term pattern. You have to go from being an actor in the drama to being an analyst of the system. You have to look at the data, not the story you're telling yourself. This table brilliantly illustrates the main diagnostic indicator. Just look at the data points. On one side, you have your investment, all the effort, the mental energy, the anxiety, the compromises. On the other side is your return, the security, the stability, the peace. In a healthy dynamic, these two sides are more or less aligned. But in a control cycle, you'll find this huge growing gap, a profound investment exhaustion disconnection. You're putting in a monumental effort for just fleeting, unpredictable moments of relief. That data point, that's the only red flag you need. And this audit leads to a really disturbing realization, known as the addict's paradox. The very person who you feel is the only one who truly gets you is in fact the person making sure you don't understand yourself. Their intermittent validation feels like a cure, but it's only a temporary fix for the anxiety they created in the first place. They're the arsonist who shows up with a fire extinguisher, and you become addicted to the relief they provide from the fire they started.
Ultimately, when you recognize the pattern, it brings you to a sovereign choice. Once you see the architecture, you finally understand your role in it. You're not just a participant. You are the power source. You're the emotional battery that keeps this whole wheel spinning. And the choice then becomes crystal clear. Keep powering the cycle or disconnect and reclaim your own energy, your own agency, and your own hard-won peace.
Acknowledging the mechanics isn't just an intellectual exercise. It is the critical first step toward collapsing this entire system of captured loyalty. You see, you can't fight a system you don't understand. But once you see the wires, you can choose to cut them. True power isn't about learning to win their game, it's about refusing to play it at all.
Just let that sink in for a second. This is the fundamental equation of this entire dynamic. It's not about love or connection or destiny. It is about control over the flow of your brain's neurochemicals. The person who manufactures the pain and then provides the relief holds all the power in the system. So reclaiming your sovereignty means becoming your own source of relief, your own source of validation, your own source of safety. True power is independence, not intensity. And this is the final, crucial takeaway. The system only works as long as you keep waiting for the person who pushed you into the storm to come and rescue you. The act of reclamation is realizing you don't need their permission, their approval, or their rescue to leave. Awareness itself is the action. The moment you see the pattern for what it is, a manufactured system of control, is the moment you can choose to simply walk out of their artificial reign and into your own reality.